All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. This is the HODLNOTS weekly warm-up, and I'm John,
I'm Vicky.
and this is the news at 9 a.m. UTC, wherever you are in the world. Let's get into the crypto headlines, making headlines over the last couple of days. So, Metaplanet and El Salvador are adding Bitcoin as the sentiment, as the fear and crypto greed index, they're there, has shifted over to neutral. So, Metaplanet CEO Simon Jerovich said that in June that the company's long-term goal was to acquire 210,000 Bitcoin in total by 2027. The Japanese investment company Metaplanet and crypto-friendly country El Salvador have bought more Bitcoin as of Monday last week, as the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index returned to neutral after several days in fear. Meanwhile, El Salvador President Nayib Bukele said on Monday that the country had bought another 21 Bitcoin as part of Bitcoin Day, adding to its total stash of 6,313 Bitcoin, as disclosed by its Bitcoin office. The country's Bitcoin office is celebrating Bitcoin Day, the anniversary of the law making Bitcoin legal tender, which took effect in September of 2021. So happy Bitcoin Day to El Salvador. It is a great day, and I think more countries should adopt this. Vicky.
Yeah, and not only are more countries adopting it, more companies are also adopting it. So this kind of goes from your story to this one, because Wall Street's Bitcoin grab, public firms now control over 1 million Bitcoin. So publicly traded companies like Strategy, Mara Holdings, Bullish, and the aforementioned Metaplanet have now collectively accumulated over 1 million Bitcoin in a historic moment and milestone in Bitcoin adoption. So this stash represents nearly 5% of Bitcoin's fixed 21 million supply as institutional conviction around the asset continues to grow. So, from corporate treasuries of prominent firms to Bitcoin mining firms and ETF issuers, the presence of publicly listed companies in the market has significantly expanded over the past few years, and it's probably not going to stop from your story and others that we're going to say later on.
Absolutely. This is going to be all
Mm.
these kind of stories are going to be in the news for quite some time, ladies and gents. So become old hats at some point. And speaking about old hats and old trends, is September going to beat this whole stereotype of Red September for the third straight year? So we will be delving more into this in our 4H this week, but more details on that later. So, what is Red September? It's not like Red October or The Hunt for Red October, that Sean Connery submarine movie. No, this is another kind of dip that we're talking about. So, Red September has been Bitcoin's worst month historically, but rate cut hopes and institutional momentum, as mentioned, could extend its winning streak. So September carries this dreaded nickname because it has delivered the lowest monthly returns for Bitcoin in general, averaging minus 3.77% across 12 years from 2013. It is also, just for interest's sake, it is also the month that China imposed a pair of major crypto bans in 2017 and 2021. Back in 2017, they banned ICOs, just so you know. So this record that we talk about over the last 13 years, over the last 12 years, is weighed down by 6 consecutive years of losses from the year 2017 to 2022. However, the tables turned in 2023, and Bitcoin has now posted 2 straight September gains. That was last year and 2023 as well, including its best September ever last year when it closed the month up 7.29%. So, is it going to be a hat trick? Is it going to be third time lucky? We're all hoping so. We'll be talking more about Bitcoin and the Bitcoin dominance charts in a short while. But as Vicky's been saying, as we've been saying, as institutions start to grab up more Bitcoin, countries like El Salvador do as well, maybe, just maybe, September will have another third year in a row in the green for a change. Vicky.
Yes, this next story could affect that actually, because we have learned about mining before on the Happy Hour Hangout. And it's just come out that the Bitcoin network mining difficulty climbs to a new all-time high. So the difficulty continues its long-term upward trend, hitting an all-time high of 134.7 trillion on Friday. Bitcoin's hash rate, the average of the total number of hashes per second from all miners on the network, has fallen to 967 billion hashes per second, down from the all-time high of over 1 trillion hashes per second recorded on the 4th of August. So the need to expand the ever greater computing resources needed to mine blocks on the Bitcoin network has also raised concerns over the centralization of Bitcoin mining as the cost of Bitcoin mining becomes progressively more expensive, leading to domination by large corporations and mining pools. So we're seeing large corporations buying, and we're also seeing large corporations, the only ones being able to afford Bitcoin to mine it. And obviously, we need miners, so Bitcoin is transacted. So that could have an effect on September. So we'll wait and see about that.
Yeah, it's gone are the days when you could mine Bitcoin off a little mining rig in your garage, and not use too much power. But quantum computers and quantum computing are much needed going forward. But yes, the institutions are taking over in a number of ways. Now, speaking about other big factors making a splash on the price of Bitcoin, whales. All right, we've spoken about this 2 weeks ago, and they will continue to make a splash as they try and breach new records. Bitcoin whales have dumped 115,000 Bitcoin in the biggest sell-off since the middle of 2022. So Bitcoin whales sold around $12.7 billion worth of Bitcoin last month, pressuring prices and signaling intense risk aversion amongst large investors. Bitcoin whales have sold all of that Bitcoin, $12.7 billion worth, in that last month of August, and continued sales could pressure its price for the next few weeks, according to analysts. So, not only is the Bitcoin mining hash rate becoming more and more difficult, we're starting to see whales influence. So it's a bit of a tussle between the whales selling off and the institutions buying up. And this may well affect whether or not September, like you said, Vicky, is going to actually be a green month, or is it going to finally revert back to red September? Over to you.
Yeah, we'll have to see about that. It's interesting, though, that Bitcoin really hasn't dumped too much after all that sellout. So we'll talk about the fear and greed index and also Bitcoin dominance shortly. Now, this is a different story, and this is more along the lines of Bitcoin and crypto going mainstream because Gemini is heading for Wall Street and they're doing an IPO, and that will make it the third public crypto exchange to do that. So Coinbase and Bullish have already taken the leap and have raised a few eyebrows because obviously when they go mainstream, it's not crypto anymore or what crypto was designed to do anymore. But so the Winklevoss twins run exchange is next in line for a public debut on the stock index with Gemini Space Station Incorporated, which is the parent of the exchange, announcing earlier last week that has begun to launch an initial public offering, so an IPO, with the offer of over 16.6 million shares of A common class stock. So there's no guarantee as to when the offering will be completed or the actual size of it, but Gemini has applied for a listing on the NASDAQ index with the ticker GEMI. So that's just another example of how crypto is going mainstream. So you'll be able to trade it on the stock exchange, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think a lot of companies, institutions are taking pages out of the strategy book. As we know, well, Master MSTR has done really well in the last few years. Now, speaking about also shifting the paradigms in Venezuela, their local currency called the bolivar is being replaced by Binance dollars. Why? Their inflation in Venezuela has hit 229%. So, as inflation has hit, stable coins like USDT are overtaking Venezuela's bolivar, their local currency, for everyday payment from groceries to salaries. Stablecoins like USDT have become the de facto currency for millions of people navigating a crumbling financial system in Venezuela as the country annual inflation rate surges to 229%. So once limited to crypto-savvy users, Tether's USDT, often referred to locally as Binance dollars, is now widely used across Venezuela for everything from groceries to condo fees to salaries and vendor payments. Says Mauricio Di Bartolomeo, who fled Venezuela before co-founding Ledon in 2018. So what's interesting is that we've spoken about other South American countries, not just El Salvador, Bolivia, now also accepting USDT and their duty-free in their airports. And I was seeing Venezuela using Binance dollars, otherwise known as USDT, because they do have access to Binance down there to be able to make payment and receive payment. This is where the global payment structures are really going, is it not? Exciting times. Vicky.
Yeah, it is exciting times with all this global adoption of crypto. Now, this is interesting. This is not global adoption of crypto. Well, it kind of is, I suppose. But now we, as traders, just saw WLFI launch on some of the exchanges, which is the World Liberty Financials coin. Now, there was a little bit of controversy, let's say, over that because it launched and then it went back down because, or maybe because, so Tron founder Justin Sun has once again found himself at the center of crypto controversy because he had WLFI and they froze his assets basically. So the project blacklisted Sun's wallet last week, freezing nearly 595 million of WLFI tokens, worth over 100 million at the time. Now, Sun has since taken to social media urging the team to unlock his assets and warning that such actions undermine investor trust. The dispute began because after the blockchain data revealed a wallet linked to Justin transferred nearly $9 million worth of the token to an exchange, shortly after the WLFI's team blacklisted the address, effectively freezing his tokens. Now, market observers claim that the move was designed to stop potential dumping that could further destabilize the token's price, which had already lost more than 60% since the launch. So as traders, I think we all saw the token launch and then bleh. But really, Justin rejected the claims of market manipulation, stating that the transfers were merely small deposit tests, small, wouldn't that be nice, and not intended for selling. So he called the freeze unreasonable and insisted that all investors should be treated equally and that he essentially had become debanked. So this is actually an interesting discussion because the World Financial Team does have a duty to protect their token and all the investors, but also it's crypto. So it is actually designed so you don't get debanked. So I think that is an interesting discussion that we have spoken about a little bit before, that crypto should just be crypto or should it be manipulated by, in this instance, the actual project. So further, we're going to see what happens further on that story, I think.
Absolutely. There've been a number of
Mm,
stories around that. It's also a big
mm,
crypto dev as well, having claimed
yeah.
that his crypto was stolen, etc., etc. All right. So, ladies and gents, bottom story is DYOR. Don't jump into projects early. Rather wait, unless you've been in it for a couple of years. Different story, another time. Last story, and speaking about comebacks, is the NFT marketplace appears to making a comeback of note. Although not as impressive as when it was in 2022 when it really kicked off, this market niche appears to be slowly rebounding. The NFT movement appears to be gaining momentum once again, projected to grow, excuse me, projected to grow substantially over the coming years, driven by increasing adoption levels. Certain metrics indicate a steady rejuvenation, but we remain far from the glory years experienced not long ago. Now, non-fungible tokens, NFTs, this market is showing signs of a revival. We've seen it in Web3, we've seen it in a bunch of crypto projects, meme coins, etc. It is projected to grow by hundreds of billions by the end of this decade by moving away from the speculative speculative art to interconnected ecosystems spanning fashion, gaming, and even legal matters. So current projections see that the 2025 global NFT market is going to reach over 60 billion with a compound annual growth of almost 42% to exceed 247 billion by 2029. Of course, this obviously depends on adoption trends and market conditions. So, ladies and gents, NFTs are not dead. They're just evolving. They're becoming more than just speculative art. They're actually becoming very much a use case. And we see this, as mentioned, a lot in Web3. And it's a very, very exciting time to be a part of and to learn more about. So, not just art anymore, but usable, interactive projects. Very much, very exciting. So, lots going on, Vicky, in the crypto headlines. Lots of things to look out for. And I think on that note, let's move on from there and talk a little bit more about the Fear Greed Index and what Bitcoin and Bitcoin dominance is doing.
Yeah, so there we go. The fear and greed index is pretty much the same as last week. So last week was 47. This week is, well, between 42 and 51, which sounds weird, but it depends on which website you look at. Either way, 42 to 51 is still neutral. So it was neutral last week, neutral this week. It did drop into the fear a little bit before it rebounded back into neutral. So I think, again, I keep saying people are being sensible, not sensitive, sensible. It's the market's moving sideways. Everyone, I think, is still waiting to see what crypto's going to do. I know all weekend I was looking to see what crypto was going to do. It just went sideways. So that's good. No one's feared, no one's greedy. So it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, absolutely. We have covered what this really all entails. It's quite algorithmic. A lot of factors coming into play, and just having a quick look at some of those. And that's to do with the Bitcoin volume and Bitcoin price. That's part of the market sentiment analysis. So Bitcoin dominance is a little to do with that, and we're going to get into that now, as well as the Bitcoin price. So let's have a look at that and where we kind of project things are maybe going to go over the next couple of days. So this is the day chart for Bitcoin at the moment. And we have been dealing, or Bitcoin itself has been dealing with quite a bit of resistance over the last couple of days. We did see back here on Friday, it managed to race up to about 113. But as you can see, even if you don't understand it, do the HODLNOTS foundational trading course where you'll get this indicator and we teach more about it. But at the moment, Bitcoin is dealing with some resistance. You can see that. And specifically, if we're not going to get into time frames, but you have a look here, and there's certain things that Bitcoin needs to get past and close up above before we can actually start to see some real movement above that. So I've been saying for the last week or so, Bitcoin needs to close up above about 114 for us to get into a little bit more of the greedy side of things, but the more positive, bullish side. So we're all hoping for that little bit of a return, because once Bitcoin breaks up there, the market will be a lot more stable. But then this will come more into play, all right, which is Bitcoin dominance. So having a quick look at this, I'm just going to keep this quite simple. We're wanting Bitcoin dominance to drop like we saw, a good couple of weeks ago, when it really broke down from its all-time high of around 65, 66, and we're needing it to drop down below 57%. Now, what does this mean? We want to see that for the moment, this is what I'd like to see. We'd like to see Bitcoin dominance go up to around 60%. All right. And just to give you guys a rough idea, it's going to be in and around this area. Why? Because what it means then is that the cash that's coming into the crypto market itself is going into Bitcoin. Why do we want it to go into Bitcoin? So the Bitcoin price can go up. Why do we want it to go up? So it can stabilize. Once Bitcoin is stable and going sideways, I would love for this to drop out of its tiny and all the way down past below 57%. And then we're going to see some real movement within the altcoins. And we are waiting for this. So fingers crossed, keep your eyes on Bitcoin at the moment. And I'm going to go back to this. Just a reminder, this is where I'd like to see it happen. I'd like to see it cross up to 114, 115. All right. Once it's up there, then the market's going to be a little bit more stable. But more on that. Do join into Marius's long-term trade reports for price predictions around Bitcoin. But me personally, what the little simple TA that I know, I'd like to see Bitcoin up here stable. Bitcoin dominance can drop. Bitcoin will go sideways, and then these alts that we love to scalp trade, HODL fire trade will really run. We can't wait for that. So, in the moment, just be a little cautious around the market. Bitcoin does need to break up and move on from there. Now, speaking about moving on, let's get into what is happening all this week, Vicky.
Yeah, the lodge is busy as usual this week, and there are some changes. So if you're not on the call, or if you're watching it later, or if you can't watch it later, everything that I'm saying now is in the Certified Academy on the calendar there. But so the lodge calls start this week as usual. Wendy's 8 a.m. UTC tomorrow, where our lodge members can jump on and ask questions. If the market's running, maybe we can trade. But it's a great opportunity to ask questions, and all of our certified hodlnots that are in the lodge get to have Wendy for an hour and ask her anything you want. So that is tomorrow. And then tomorrow continues with the first of our 2 weekly self-paced calls. So we have a course and it's self-paced as well as live. But the self-paced people, we don't leave them out in the wilderness on their own. They actually get to jump on calls twice a week or once a week, depending on what module they're on. And that starts on Tuesday at 12 p.m. UTC, which is our normal call time. And then we do have the happy hour hangout. Can you believe it's already been a month again? So Wednesday is also our monthly happy hour hangout at 11 a.m. UTC. And this week we'll be delving into again some of the topics we've been talking about on these calls. So it's been really interesting to have the discussions around them, and we'll have another one. So please jump on and actually raise your hand, have the discussion with us. We love the interaction. So then a little later that day, we have a first of our HODL dot calls. So those are for the people that are doing the 3M challenge, where we turn $40 into 2,500, and we've had another person do it. So we had an exciting week last week when another person actually entered the black bear cave, became a black bear, which means he, in this instance, who's not on the call, but congratulations. It's a huge feat. Turn $40 into $2,500. So that's 6,000-ish% gain. Amazing. All through the power of scalping. So we love that. So congratulations. Yeah, for sure. And then that will be followed immediately by the HODL Fire call at 9 p.m. UTC this week, which is hosted by Wendy. Always another great call to jump on and HODL Fire, your way to profit. And then the busy week continues with the second of our 3M challenge calls. Now, this has changed. So it's normally 8 a.m. UTC, but this week it is at 9 a.m. UTC. So it has been changed on the large calendar. So if you're not sure, have a look at that. But it's 1 hour later than normal. And then lastly, we have the second of our weekly self-paced calls at 12 p.m. UTC that day. And again, I mentioned it last week, but have a little bit of a sneak peek in the lodge, or just keep looking, because we might do some impromptu calls or coffee chats or special chat this week. There's been a lot of questions, and we love jumping on and hearing from all of you. So busy week in the lodge, a few extra calls, a few changes, and that's this week in the lodge.
Yeah, one last notification, ladies and gents. For those of you who are BTEV token holders, specifically, you are part of the BTEV token whisper drop. If you have not noticed by now, in the BTEV token announcement channel, in the main channel, and specifically on our socials, there is a contest currently running. All right, we've got another, I'm trying to do the math, 6 hours and 36 minutes in which to enter. You have to have already added the Apertum mainnet or blockchain to your MetaMask wallet and show us proof, simple screenshot that you have added it, and you will enter into that draw one of 5 lucky winners to win a $50 mining bot from the Apertum gents. All right, very, very exciting stuff. So please make sure that you go and check those details. All the details are in the main channel, or specifically the BTEV token announcement channel. But the entry mechanism is on our socials, on X, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. You have got 6 hours and 35 minutes in which to still enter, but you have to be verified. All right, speaking about verified, we have been running a contest for the last little while, and that is the we were popping a whole bunch of charaded letters into the mix, and we were asking if anybody could guess what the word would have been at that point if it was the final word, and we did have somebody guess that, and Vika's going to announce the winner.
Yes, we did. We had quite a few entries, but the correct answer was our own Frenchie, as as John calls her. So congratulations. The word was hash. HASH. So congratulations. You do win a 30-day HODL fire. So please put it in a support ticket. And we'll announce that we'll actually do the announcement in the lodge so everyone knows. But please put in a support ticket. She is on the call. Congratulations. And you
Mhm.
win a 30-day HODL fire. Always enters all the competitions. So well done. Really appreciate that.
Got to be
So
in it to
that
win
was
it.
last week. Yeah.
So, with that said, that contest is closed, but there's a new contest, ladies and gents, and it's going to be a little bit more pantomime. Oh, wait, was that a letter? I don't even know. Okay, right. You never know. All right. So, ladies and gents, in the same vein as the last couple of weeks, we've come up with a 13-letter word. Oh, was it 13 letters? I can't remember. It might be seven. It might be 25. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. No,
Ooh,
that's
that's going to
eight
be, that'll go into 2027.
at least. All right. On that note, all right. So we're going to drop the first letter. It's a random letter of this new contest. It's simple. Each week we'll be dropping another letter. So either you be on here live, watch the recording, and join us in this contest. You will be able to win a 30-day HODL Fire subscription for your efforts. So, Vicky, let's warm up those charade shoulders and arms. And what is the very first letter that we're going to be doing in this contest?
Okie dokie. Here we go again. Oh, that looks really familiar.
It does. All right.
Mhm.
I don't know where it is. Right. On that
Don't
note,
know.
so tune in for next week, but we're going to be leaving you guys and girls with the thought for the week.
The thought for the week is very short, and it has to do with that just there, because I'm a bit of a that. So all I have to say for everyone this week is live long and prosper.
If you guys don't know what she's talking about that little icon in the Fear and Greed Index. All right. So, as she said, happy Star Trek Day. We'll catch you guys on Wednesday, and we will catch you guys on the rest of the calls as well. Otherwise, next week, Monday at 9 a.m. UTC. Until then, bye bye.